All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this is a new year, y'all. A new year for Sideline Sports Network, and for all the shows, everybody's in it. Thank you for sticking with us for as long as we've been in existence. But this is the Sports Insiders, and I know we've got the college football playoff coming on here, the Fiesta Bowl with Miami and Ole Miss coming on in about 13 minutes. We have a quick show for you. I am Denzel Snipes. This is the sports agent himself, Sean Russey. I've got a new background, as you can see. It's not all boring anymore or whatever. So yeah. By the way, you already know who I'm rocking with. Uh, so with that being said, um, follow us on all of our platforms. We are on YouTube, Facebook, X, as well as on Instagram and TikTok as well. We have two channels on TikTok: Sideline Sports and Sideline Sports One. So before we get started, Sean, how you doing, man? How was the holidays?
No, everything's going good, man. Looking forward to this game tonight. Two teams that I don't think anyone expected to be there. Maybe they expected one of the two, but I think we got two teams no one really expected to be in this semifinal matchup. And Miami's playing some really good defense right now.
Yes, yes, they are. And it's crazy because it's now all wide open now because we're going to have a national championship game that doesn't involve Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
and it's a two-sided sword, right? Because it's what college football wants, but they're also going to tout, oh, this is the NIL portal working, which is also a whole other conversation.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, well, you know how it is. I mean, it's like fans. What are you gonna do about them? I mean, you pick one or the other. You said you don't like dynasties, and well, here you go. But
Yep.
then I mean, you got one school in Indiana who had never made it before. Then you got Miami who hadn't made it in over 20 years. You got Oregon who hadn't made it in over 10 years. And by the way, Indiana and Oregon had never won one before. You also got Ole Miss who had never made it and had never won before. So yeah, this is shaping up to be some exciting action coming up. But with that being said, and we're gonna get to that in just a moment. But just yesterday, it was finalized that point guard Trae Young will be traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Washington Wizards, putting to an end his tenure in Atlanta. A few details here. It says here that Trae Young was traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Washington Wizards. Um, so the Wizards will receive Trae Young and a four-time NBA All-Star and a lead offensive guard known for scoring range and high-level playmaking. The Atlanta Hawks will receive veteran scoring guard C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert, a reliable three-point shooter with a multi-year team control. Sean, uh, details?
Yeah, so I mean, and I don't think this is a long-term move for the Wizards. This is more of a get some tickets sales while you're rebuilding type of deal. I don't think Trey Young will be there when they go above the curve with this rebuild. But this is an odd deal because no draft picks were having to be involved, and that honestly, and we'll touch on it more, saves Atlanta for another big domino that looks like is going to come to fruition here over the next couple weeks. But McCollum's contract is so big, almost 30 million annually, and they just had to add in a little bit more of a smaller contract of Kispert, and the salaries basically match, and so they were able to get this done without any picks. The Wizards did it, obviously. Now they have a star to advertise on a nightly basis, especially for a struggling franchise. And the Hawks did it because they've just really hit on their draft picks and the young guys they've traded for. They all seem to be panning out right now. Now we've seen this, with other teams that think guys are panning out and they've made the move too quickly. I don't know if that's the case with Atlanta, but there is some guys they've only had, about 60 games. I think it might be a hard judge on some of these guys, and this may even put more pressure on some of these guys. So we'll see how they respond to now. They're going to be asked to do even more, a little heavy lifting without Trae Young's scoring punch there in the fourth quarter. I know everybody has a lot to say about Trae Young's defense, but you know, fourth quarter clutch for me, he's right up there with Curry in the fourth quarter in terms of being a deadly shooter, and he absolutely has taken multiple teams' hearts out over the years.
Oh yes, 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 absolutely. And maybe a change of scenery is what is needed with Trey Young, to help get him. I know it sounds odd me saying that when anybody's hear that, but sometimes a sometimes a change of scenery is what's needed to try to elevate them to the next level. I mean, now, do I think that this trade is going to exactly move the needle for either team? No, I do not. I don't think that this move is gonna move the needle for anybody really.
No, it's really the domino for Atlanta because now they've held their two first round picks that they picked up in the offseason. And the rumor is they're going to package those with Porzingis for Anthony Davis. Now, I believe Davis will be one of multiple pieces the Mavs send packing. I don't know if the Mavs will try to package Kyrie and Davis together. I know they continue to want to play together, but the Mavs are about to rebuild around Cooper Flag. And there's talks that Thompson is about to be out the door, Davis out the door, and that probably leads to Kyrie out the door as well. Dallas is going to be a major piece to a lot of trade packages, in the coming weeks. But in terms of Atlanta, as much as they just got Porzingis to be able to package a couple picks and potentially get Anthony Davis, I think you do that 10 out of 10 times.
Of
There's
course.
injury history on both sides, but I think Anthony Davis just defensively and just his presence on the floor is a lot better than Porzingis is for what they've done now with McCollum, and now you've got a young point guard there. And I think with you have McCollum and Davis as veterans to kind of anchor that young team. I think that's a better fit than Porzingis, who's not as apt to go inside and bang around. He'd rather hang around the 3 point line all game and just kind of get an open shot here and there. He will go inside, but he's not going to bang like Davis will.
Yeah. If you had to pick before we move on, if you had to pick a true winner of this trade, who would you pick?
I mean, right now, I think it's Atlanta. We'll see what the Wizards do with Young's contract if they end up moving him again. But Atlanta gave themselves even more flexibility. We praised them in the offseason here when we did the offseason update. They gained a lot of picks. They had cap flexibility. Now they have more cap flexibility. They have another expiring contract in CJ McCollum. Atlanta, as much as they're under 500, I would definitely watch for them to be players in the East if they make another move or two.
Okay then. All right. And maybe quite possible, if possible, that they can make a run for the playing tournament. Who knows? We're coming upon the All Star break, coming upon mid season, and the trade deadline as well. So we'll see what happens with that one. So moving on, we have got the college football playoff semifinals as we kind of BS'd about earlier in the program when we first came on the air. I'm sitting here watching the guys warm up right now on the field. Blockbuster Fiesta Bowl looking to take place right now. Um, so let's see here. Indiana, the top seed, who's had an undefeated season. You got they will face Oregon tomorrow night in the they will face Oregon in the Chick-fil-A
The
Pizza
Peach
Bowl. Yes,
Bowl.
Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
Pizza Bowl. And of course, you got Ole Miss and Miami. Now, let's see here. With that being said, give me your thoughts on both games and who you've got to win.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely excited to see this Ole Miss Miami matchup. I mean, I think it would have been the same with Georgia, right? You would have a high-powered offense versus a very stout defense. Miami's offense with Carson Beck for me is very Trent Dilfer and the Ravens. They just don't want Beck to turn it over.
Right.
um, and hopefully get their running game going. If Ole Miss puts up the type of points they did against Georgia, I think it's tough for Miami to keep up. But I do think we're going to see a bit of a lower scoring game here. I'm going to go with Ole Miss 27-24. But I think Miami will hang with them despite the higher powered offense. I mean, they just shut down Ohio State, but and this is something we can touch on another show. There was a lot of rush shown by teams that had the bye week. We'll touch on that, and the overall statistics over the last 2 years over teams with the bye week have not been good. So we'll touch
We're in
on that
five now.
on another show. But it was a little wild to see how the upsets kind of unfolded there. The Ole Miss Georgia game was what you expected. Georgia didn't really look rusty at all. They just kind of got outplayed.
Yeah, absolutely. That was another team that I was going to say that hey, we have a national championship game. Without it's Georgia, so Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson. You know what I mean? This is most definitely wide open for me because, in my opinion, the two best teams in the tournament were taken out, and that was Ohio State and Georgia. You know,
And
and
arguably you have the last two best teams are playing each other in the Peach Bowl. In terms of how the rankings look.
Yeah, with Indiana and Oregon, and the team that took out Ohio State and and Georgia are about
Georgia.
to play here in a few minutes.
Yep.
I'm actually going to take Miami in this one. I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to take Miami by, I'd say, about 10 points. I can't give you a score, an exact score, or anything like that. I just think they have the better defense. Watching them against Ohio State, they look like a junior version of the Texans. They're flying all over the place. They are where the ball carrier is, and they are hitting. They're not just tackling; they are hitting. You know,
Yeah, and that will be interesting to see how Ole Miss responds to that because Georgia has a good defense, but they're more of a finesse defense. Miami's really been cracking people, and teams respond to that differently. We'll see how Ole Miss responds to it because that's not the type of physicality they saw last week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, number 5 Oregon versus number 1 Indiana, in what I like to call the Raider Bowl, because let's face it, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to pick either quarterback coming out of the draft this year, Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore. I'm actually going to take Indiana by a touchdown. I'd say Oregon hangs with them. It'll be close, like this earlier season's matchup. Indiana won by 10. I'll say Indiana wins by 7. I'll say 27-20. And Indiana goes to the national championship game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Indiana's going to continue to roll here. I think maybe it gets a little more high scoring because of Oregon. Um, propensity to have push the other team's defense a little bit. But I think Fernando will get the best of Oregon here at the end. Maybe a little bit in the 30s, but I think Indiana moves on. And as we talked about earlier, these NIL teams, Fernando is moving on. We all know he's going to the draft. Indiana's already secured Josh Hoover from TCU to come in and replace him as quarterback next year.
Nice.
And they're doing this during the CFP. So it's interesting to see, that they're basically make sure that at least at the top position, quarterback, they're going to be reloaded and ready to go for another run, no matter what happens tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go off the air, since you are the man when it comes to contracts, not apparently, it's confirmed. That Lane Kiffin earned an additional $500,000 for their win last week in the Sugar Bowl. What is he projected to earn should they win tonight and even in the national championship?
It's probably escalated somewhere like 750 tonight, a million for next week for the national title. Usually they go up a little bit each round. Um, and because of how it was dismissed, Ole Miss, has to honor what's in that contract. So it's almost like he is on the sideline earning that W because he's earning the paycheck. It's almost like deferred money for Otani.
Yeah,
um, but it's this is one of the things I think they need to look at, and it's something I've talked to a few people about this week. Like, how can you have the portal open in the middle of the CFP? And then, what are the rules? Like, should you automatically disqualify guys that are in the CFP teams that want to jump into the portal? Should they be taken out of the game? Should they be allowed to play in the games? And the same thing with coaches. Should we, set a date for college football? Like, hey, yeah, you can start firing guys, but if you've got a playoff team, you cannot interview or take a job until your team is eliminated. I think it has to be looked at some point where the contract has to be honored on both sides, and that's from the player standpoint in terms of the portal, and that's from the coach's standpoint in terms of I got you this far, I should want to finish the job here.
right.
It's literally another month out of your life, and if that team wants you so badly that wants you as the next head coach, guess what? They're not going to hire anybody in that month. They're not losing that much because they have people in place in terms of program directors and player directors that could handle the portal without a coach in place.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's a little harder to get recruits to commit, but if you've got a side deal, which we all knows happens, hey, quietly, yes, I'm signing there. They can quietly tell a recruit, hey, yes, he's coming here, but for obvious reasons, we can't announce that right now.
right.
Um,
Well,
and
also
then
another
at the end
motivating.
of the day, if it
Oh,
falls
I'm sorry.
through, we've always seen recruits, back out and leave and go back into the portal real quick, or hey, nope, I'm backing out of my commitment here. Something changed in the coaching staff. I'm out. Um, but I do think the dates need to be looked at. The portal being open during the playoff, I think is It's really ridiculous, and it hurts the teams. You know, not outside of the playoff because obviously they've got an advantage to look at everybody, but it hurts the teams in the playoff because then you've got to be talking to the guys while you're supposed to be game planning about convincing them to stay for the next season, while
Mhm.
they're also flirting with leaving a team that's possibly in the national championship.
True, exactly, and and to your point about, well, if you kind of lock this down, you may be, risking not recruiting a few people. Well, you also could get those back also because what bigger motivator for you to join a school is a deep college football playoff run. If
Yeah,
Ole Miss wins the national championship, whoever is still iffy or may have decommitted, they might suddenly change their mind. Oh shoot, I want there next year.
yep. No,
You know,
100%. And it's I think it's something they'll have to look at. I'm a big proponent that I think NIL deals need to be 2 years. I think you need to, you know, do something to have the kids not want to jump back every season. Like if you have a good season, great. Make an NIL deal just like a contract and have an escalator for the kid hitting certain statistic marks. Have escalators for hitting certain snap percentage plays based on what you've actually earned.
right.
Um, Now, obviously, there's situations, and I've seen lawyers, NIL lawyers, bring it up where, but what if teams know that percentage and at the end they bench guys? Hey, that happens in the NFL. Coaches are
Hmm.
well aware of your snap percentage bonus, and if you're in the last 17, 18, you're out of the playoffs. Coach may bench you because front office said, "Hey, we don't really want to send down that 500."
Uh-huh. Yep, that is
You
true.
know, and so there's no reason to do it here, and that's why, like we've mentioned before, I think eventually you've got to do some sort of CBA with college football. You're going to have some sort of players association because you've already opened free agency. You just haven't titled it such, but you're literally letting players. I know guys going in this year, it's their third and fourth time in the portal, and I think that's overkill.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, with that being said, that's our show for today, ladies and gentlemen. Please follow us on Sideline Sports Network on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and on uh, TikTok as well. So for Sean Russey, I am the sniper Denzel Snipes. And thanks a lot for joining this show. The first of an entire year of coverage coming to you. We just got credentialed to go and cover Super Bowl week down in Santa Clara, so we'll be down there for that one. So most definitely tune in a month from now while we're down there. And feel free to go back and look at all of our old shows to kind of get a feel for everything. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube to for all notifications for new episodes. And we will see you all next week.